Welcome to this week's Riks Roundup. I'm here with Peter Kleppe and Scarlett Karoleva, my political commentators. Protests in Brussels surrounding the European Parliament with about 250 tractors. What sparked these recent protests, Peter?
Well, yeah, it's becoming a common thing here in Brussels. Farmers lining the street, and the farmers are just very angry about the continuing green regulations coming from Brussels, and they have said that they will continue their protests, until the EU fundamentally changes course.
And what are the grievances of the participants in these protests, Scarlett?
Well, the farmers have been protesting over the last couple of months for various reasons, and the European Commission has made some concessions. The issue is, however, that farmers still feel that they are being left unheard. This time, the main issue was that they are afraid that they have to sell for below the production prices. And this can be devastating for farmers because it can put them out of business.
And Peter, could you describe the surroundings during these protests in terms of, for example, entrance to the European institutions, traffic? Was it chaotic? How was the atmosphere? Were people angry?
Yeah, I do think that some of the farmers go too far. They are blocking the streets. They are causing damage. Of course, it's a small minority, but I don't think we should support that. I don't think the people that do this they actually serve the cause of the farmers. Especially when you see that there is some political goodwill to change things. The European agricultural ministers, they have made some minor changes, mostly scrapping extra new green regulations. But of course, what needs to happen is that the existing green requirements need to be scrapped. And what Scarlett said also, the fact that farmers are basically forced into some kind of a central planning system with subsidies and requirements. I mean, they have to sit more at their desk, some of them, than to be on the land. So I think we have to completely liberate them from all this bureaucracy, and then they also will no longer need all these subsidies anymore.
What will be the outcome of these protests, Peter?
I think politicians underestimate how strong public opinion sympathizes with farmers. That's also why, of course, farmers have to be careful not to destroy that goodwill, but with vandalism. Time and again in many countries, politicians say, "Oh, it's only a small percentage of voters. Let's just ignore them." But that doesn't work because people think of the farmer as somebody with an honest profession, hard work, and in their family history they all know farmers. So that's why I think ultimately the farmers will win. That's an iron law in politics. The farmers always beat the politicians.
And moving on to establishment of processing camps in Albania. Peter, could you tell us what is this about?
Well, in November, the Italian government of Giorgia Meloni, she managed to conclude a deal with Albania to bring potentially 30,000 people that enter Italy illegally to Albania. Why? In order to make sure that the business model of the human smugglers is broken. So if people pay a lot of money and risk their lives to cross the Mediterranean, then when they see that they will end up in Albania to see their asylum request processed, I think that's a very good development, because people that have no chance for asylum will rationally no longer try to risk the journey. And also legally, this seems to be fine for now. Of course, there will be continuing lawsuits, but at least in Albania, it has been cleared by the highest court, and also the European Commission has not yet been able to prove that anything is against the treaties.
And Scarlett, could you tell us about the consequences of an open border in, for example, the north of Europe?
Yeah, because we're already seeing the consequences within our own borders. To give you an example, in the Netherlands this week, almost 8,000 or over 8,000 migrants had to be household in either hotels or in holiday resorts because there were no more places left to household them within normal asylum um, asylums. To give you an estimate on what this costs, it's 77 euro per migrant. So we're talking about a total of 4.2 million euros just to household a group of 8,000 migrants. So the cost is huge and is giving an enormous overburden on the system.
Moving on to lunch canteen downgrades. Staff of the European Central Bank complaining about a downgrade in their olive oil. Peter, can you tell us what this is about?
Yeah, it's a terrible drama that is taking place in the European Central Bank. This is the institution issuing euros. What's happening is that the staff of the European Central Bank is complaining that they no longer get top quality olive oil, but only second rate. And I think it's quite ironic because this is really inflation, right? Inflation is not only higher prices, but also receiving lower quality for the same price. So maybe it's karma because the European Central Bank is of course responsible for the fact that Europeans are suffering a much higher inflation than a few years ago.
Scarlett, what do you say to this?
I think it is hilarious that they're creating such an outspark over it. I mean, like Peter mentioned, we are living in a time of inflation. We all have to give something. Most people cannot even afford their groceries at the moment. So the fact that they're crying over something so trivial as olive oil is just ridiculous to me. Poor bureaucrats in the EU, they probably have nothing better to do than to cry over the quality of the olive oils that is probably not even paid by themselves, but by tax money.
The UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and the leader of the opposition Keir Starmer have united to condemn the design of a football kit. Scarlett, can you tell us about the controversy surrounding this design?
Yes, every football club, of course, always proudly wears the flag of their country when they're playing in the country's team. And Nike this time actually brought out a new model of the UK's team, this time without its traditional St. George cross, which has the traditional colors of white and red, and they diverged from it and they came out with new modern colors such as purple and blue. So it really sparked an outrage because it can be seen as they trying to erase the UK's identity.
And it's been said that they will not make any changes to this design. What has been the response to that, Peter? What do you say?
Well, indeed, it's a bit bizarre because there was sort of universal condemnation of this. Many people don't like if you mess around with their flag, and I think that's perfectly understandable. And certainly, football fans, they like their flags, so let them have their flags. But still, they want to continue with it because it's an away kit and that teams only wear in specific circumstances when the difference between the teams is not so clear. And in the case of England, it's been since 2018 they claim that this away kit has been worn, which is why it's not such a big deal supposedly. But I can understand that people are annoyed by it. I mean, recently we had Germany coming out with a pink football kit that they're actually wearing. Now, I may be wrong, but I don't think Germany has ever worn that color. So, I mean, this is kind of bizarre. And also, if the idea is to bring politics into it, it's also not a good idea. Let's keep politics and sport separate, please.
What does this design tell the people of Europe, considering that they did something similar with the German team? The design was meant to show diversity, multiculturalism. There is something similar with the subway station names in the undergrounds in London, for the same reason, representing diversity, multiculturalism. So what does this tell the people of Europe, that they constantly try to bring this into different sports arenas or entertainment?
That's a tough question. I cannot answer that, but what I do think is that we should be proud of our own country's flag wherever we're from, because our flag represents a certain pride and it unifies a country. It's a symbol of fostering patriotism, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be proud of wearing one's national flag.
Peter, what do you say?
Yeah, also, I really don't like this experimentation, with colors. It would be like if Belgium would start wearing orange, which is clearly the Dutch color, right? I mean, of course, that would never happen, but I think part of the beauty of sports is also, the traditions that you have, and yeah, and it's not nice to see, some kind of experimentation with traditional symbols of sports, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter Klepper and Scarlett Karoleva, for this week's Riks Roundup.